Hold the steering wheel with your hands. Just imagine. In front of you, there is no asphalt, no guardrail, no signs. There is only an edge. And just beyond that edge, silence falling hundreds of meters down. These roads are not there to take you from one place to another. They exist to leave you alone with yourself. Every wrong decision is made instantly. Every turn puts you into another test. And there are people who pass through these roads every day, not because of fear, but out of necessity. Because on the other side, there is a life. A village. A family. Someone waiting. Today, we walk on those roads. Welcome to Planet on Edge. Zoji La Pass, India. You stand at the foot of the pass in Sonamarg and look up. You understand why it is called the corridor to heaven. Don't expect asphalt. As you begin to climb, the road surface disappears, replaced by a mixture of mud and melting ice. Zoji La is not for new drivers. A steering mistake of a few centimeters, and in front of you is an unprotected cliff. But the real fear is not the terrain. It's the intersections. Massive Tata trucks. Military convoys. Sometimes hundreds of sheep spilling onto the road. The road is so narrow that passing an oncoming vehicle turns into a real battle of intelligence. centimeter by centimeter. Holding your breath. Nepal Mountain Road. If you're looking for smooth asphalt, turn back immediately. This road is actually a narrow strip of rock hastily carved into the steep cliffs of the Himalayas. The scariest thing is not the steepness. It's the lack of guardrails. A 10-centimeter steering deviation. And beneath you, a 1,000-meter drop straight into a wildly flowing river. In some sections, waterfalls pour directly from the mountain peak onto the roof of your car. Turning the road surface into muddy, slippery pools. The crackling sound of small pebbles hitting the windshield is a warning sign. At any moment, they can fall without warning. Tizi Test Road, Morocco. At over 2,100 meters altitude. The air thins. The view stretches into infinity. From the summit, you can see the Sioux Valley and the Anti-Atlas mountain range in the distance. And at that very moment comes the most dangerous moment. The magnificence of nature easily distracts drivers. Yet the road is carved directly into a steep cliff. You take your eyes off the road for a moment to look at the view, and your will may be right at the edge of the unprotected cliff. Passing oncoming cars requires centimeter by centimeter calculation in your mirrors. Pamir Highway, Afghanistan side. You are on the roof of the world. Every breath is heavy. The vehicle's engine screams, deprived of oxygen. A road only wide enough for one vehicle. On one side, steep limestone cliffs ready to collapse at any moment. On the other side, not asphalt, rough stones, dust, and mud from melting ice. The turns are so sharp that you have to maneuver back and forth to pass. One of us will have to reverse for hundreds of meters along the edge of the abyss. And the rear wheels stop right at the edge of the cliff. The most terrifying thing is an oncoming vehicle. Guoyang Tunnel, China. As you approach, you understand. This is not a modern tunnel. A tunnel carved entirely by hand by 13 local villagers. Rough, uneven rock surfaces carved with hammer and chisel. No polished concrete and no barriers. The first impression is claustrophobia. The tunnel is only 5 meters high and 4 meters wide. If you're driving a large SUV, your side mirrors scrape against the cold rock walls. The most distinctive feature of this route is its 35 windows, actually rock openings carved to let in light during construction. As you pass these openings, you see a bottomless drop of hundreds of meters right beside your wheel. Trans-Siberian Highway, Russia. This road is like a two-faced monster. In the west, near Moscow, smooth and modern asphalt sections. And the eastern side, where the graveyard of vehicles begins. Extreme temperature changes deform the road surface. Potholes form that can swallow the suspension of any heavy truck. Here, the enemy is not just the cliff. It's distance. Temperatures can drop to -40 degrees. At this temperature, steel becomes brittle. Lubricants solidify. If your car breaks down in the middle of the taiga forest, this is no longer a technical problem. It's a life-threatening situation. Lampa-Galakatara Highway. On this road, you encounter every kind of traffic. Overloaded trucks carrying massive loads. Reckless motorcycles slicing through traffic. No fixed speed limit. You constantly go back and forth between hard braking and accelerating to pass. And the potholes that appear right after turns or in the shadows of roadside trees, they can instantly destroy any vehicle suspension. In the dry season, the dust from trucks ahead reduces visibility to a minimum. Estimating distance turns into a dangerous gamble. If I had to describe this route briefly, dancing on a rope between impossible places. Skipper's Canyon Road, New Zealand. A road that makes you hold your breath. Not from lack of oxygen, but from the fear that loud sounds could trigger rockfalls. Carved more than 140 years ago by gold miners. The scariest thing is not the steepness. It's the narrowness. The road is only one lane wide. On one side, a steep rock wall. On the other, a drop of hundreds of meters straight down to the river. You will see that your wheels are only 20 centimeters away from the edge of the cliff. You feel the entire weight of the vehicle constantly being pulled toward the abyss. Panji Valley Road, India. If I had to describe the road from Killar to Kishtwar in one word, a symphony of fear. This is not just a road. It is a narrow trench carved by hand into the steep cliffs of the Himalayas. On one side, a vertical rock wall that feels like it could crush the roof of your car. On the other, an unprotected drop of hundreds of meters. And the road is only wide enough for one vehicle. What happens if a vehicle comes from the opposite direction? One of you will have to reverse for hundreds of kilometers along the edge of the cliff. Fairy Meadows Road, Pakistan. The moment you start from Raikot Bridge on the Karakoram Highway, you feel the difference. There are absolutely no guardrails on this road. Zero. On one side, a steep rock wall. On the other, a drop of hundreds of meters straight down to the Indus River. A 10 cm steering deviation, and your story ends immediately. The road is unpaved. Just stones and dust. You will climb to approximately 3,300 meters. In many sections, the road barely fits the width of an old Jeep. Why do people still rush toward this death? Because at the end of the journey, you will stand in front of the world's 9th highest mountain, Nanga Parbat. Sani Pass, South Africa. Sani Pass is not just a road. It is a character test for both driver and vehicle. It connects KwaZulu-Natal and Lesotho. At a dizzying altitude. A staircase to heaven, but filled with deadly traps. The first few kilometers from the base of the pass seem relatively smooth. The lush green scenery of the Drakensberg Mountains easily relaxes you. Don't be fooled. As you begin to cross the South African border, the asphalt completely disappears. Replaced by boulders, mud, and deep grooves carved by rainwater flowing across the surface. Manali Leh Road, India. As you leave the green scenery of Manali, the first shock is Rohtang Pass. In Tibetan, Rohtang means land of corpses. This name is not an exaggeration. When I passed here during snowmelt, the road had turned into a thick muddy river. Colorful, heavily loaded Tata trucks were moving centimeter by centimeter along the edge of the unprotected cliff. One slip of the steering, and everything would end at the bottom of that lush green valley. Kabul Jalalabad Road, Afghanistan. When you step onto this road, you feel trapped between the steep cliffs of the Hindu Kush Mountains. The road is so narrow that a small turn of the steering wheel could send the car hundreds of meters down into the valley below. There are no guardrails on the turns. No modern signs. Only rocks, dust, and an aging road. Feeling gravity pulling the car toward the abyss at every turn is a heart-stopping experience. Removing the human element from this route would be a huge omission. It is a vital transport artery, which is why it is always overloaded. You see massive trucks decorated in green and red, loaded with goods, climbing the slopes. Los Caracoles Pass, Argentina and Chile. The name is no coincidence. Caracoles means snail in Spanish. The Chilean side is especially steep, sharp turns and no guardrails. Looking down from the cabin, you feel your wheels are only centimeters from the cliff. The scariest thing is not the steepness. It's the traffic density. As a major crossing point, you encounter endless convoys of slow-moving heavy trucks. Passing here requires insane skill. In fog or snow, you have to wait patiently right behind container trucks. accompanied by the sharp smell of burning brakes in the air. Bayburt D915, Turkey. Many people call Bolivia's Yungas Road the Death Road. But for me, D915 is on a completely different level. The total route is about 106 kilometers. But its soul lies in the Darabasai bends. Within just 5 kilometers, 13 extremely sharp turns stacked one after another, climbing from 1,712 meters to 2,350 meters. The most terrifying feeling is not the height. It's the void. There is not a single meter of safety barrier. One moment of distraction or a single second of oversteering, and your car falls freely hundreds of meters down. And a bad ending. Ma Pai Leng Pass, Vietnam. Ma Pai Leng is not just a road. It is a masterpiece carved into a rock face. When you stand at the top of the pass, the most striking feeling is insignificance. On one side, towering limestone cliffs. On the other, a deep abyss descending to the emerald green No-K River. If evaluated as a survival project, Ma Pai Leng is the ultimate test of courage. Not for those seeking absolute safety. For those who want to find the connection between humanity and harsh nature. Come here between October and December to see buckwheat flowers blooming on the grey rocks. Anzab Pass, Tajikistan. When you first step into Anzab, the awe of the altitude above 3,300 meters hits you. This road is not just a winding strip of asphalt. It is a psychological challenge. On one side, steep cliffs filled with rocks ready to collapse. On the other, the deep abyss of the Hisar Mountains. No guardrails. No margin for error. With a single careless turn of the steering wheel, you will understand the law of gravity. Even in summer, Anzob can present you with unexpected snowstorms or road sections covered in mud from melting ice. Eshima Ohashi Bridge, Japan. If you only look at photos taken with a telephoto lens, this bridge connecting Matsue and Sakeminato looks like a steep wall shooting into the sky. But when you actually sit behind the wheel, the experience is much more interesting. As you approach the bridge, the first impression is doubt. The slope on the Shermaine side is 6.1%. On the Tottori side, 5.1%. From a distance, the road surface disappears, leaving only a steep 90-degree rise. Even if it's not as steep as claimed, climbing 45 meters in a short distance makes your heart race. Luxor Al Hurghada Road, Egypt. The most terrifying experience does not come from the terrain. It comes from an unspoken rule of local drivers. Turn off your headlights. When night falls in the desert, you are inside an absolute void of darkness. To avoid attracting the attention of criminal gangs or armed groups, many drivers prefer to pass quickly in the dark. You are driving over 100 kilometers per hour, and suddenly a metallic ghost appears in front of you. flashing warning lights. Moreover, there is not a single house for dozens of kilometers. No phone signal. No medical help. James Dalton Highway, Alaska. The Road of Giants. Massive 18-wheeler trucks serving oil fields. And souls seeking absolute solitude. When you leave Fairbanks and begin to enter Dalton, the first feeling, getting lost. Cell phone signal, none. Gas stations, once every few hundred miles. You will truly be cut off from the world. Just you, the dirt road, and the pipeline stretching beside you like a giant steel snake. Don't expect smooth asphalt. Most of Dalton is gravel and hardened soil. When it's dry, the dust is so dense you can't see in front of your car. When it rains, it turns into a slippery muddy swamp. Outro. Now stop. Right now, there are people on every road in this video. Still driving. Still passing. Still reversing, at the edge of the cliff, right beside the void dropping hundreds of meters down. Sometimes to transport goods. Sometimes as the only source of income for their families. Sometimes just because there is no other way. These people are not on these roads to be heroes. They are just doing their jobs. But we must remember them. Which of these roads shook you the most? The dark turns of Zoji La, the handmade narrowness of Guolyang Tunnel, or the ocean-swallowed road of passage du Gois? Write in the comments. I'm really curious. Planet on Edge. We tell you what the world forgot to tell you.